They say jazz is the only genre of music where you can make a mistake and people still pay good money to come and see it. But to me, that's like saying pizza is just an edible plate for cheese. I don't know what I was thinking. Today we're going to be talking about jazz. Why is jazz sometimes so difficult to listen to without getting bored? Now, some of the biggest music fans that I know, including myself, have found it difficult to listen to jazz. We sometimes can find it boring. All the while, you'll see people who look like this, saying that it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to music. Now, we want to know what we're missing out on, right? And I know that if you get thrown into some jazz music after listening to something like pop that has a very strong structure, it can feel like you just got dropped into the middle of a conversation, being spoken backwards in another language. Now, one criticism that I hear of jazz all the time is saying that it's too chaotic and too unpredictable. If you feel this way, maybe your first time listening to jazz went something like this. You had a friend who was like, hey, you gotta check out this great jazz album, Interstellar Space by John Coltrane. You thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And you turned it on, and then you immediately turned it off because you said, this is just noise. And maybe you'd be right. Albums like that need to come later in your jazz journey. Right now, you need something with a very easy to catch melody, maybe even some vocals to latch onto. You need something like this.
Although I can't dismiss the memory of her kiss.
Alright, so since you're still watching, I can tell you're serious about learning to love jazz. Here's how I suggest you do it. So the first step is picking some artists that you can actually enjoy. My two favorite genres of jazz are vocal jazz, which include artists like Ella Fitzgerald, Chet Baker, Louis Armstrong, and cool jazz. Artists from cool jazz include Miles Davis, Chet Baker again, and Dave Brubeck. Now, these two genres and these few artists that I mentioned are just the very tip of the iceberg when it comes to jazz, but I think they're a great starting point for anyone. Now that you have your artists, let's talk about how we can start to understand how jazz works so that you don't get lost next time you try to listen. When listening to jazz, a lot of times we start with what's called the head, and this is kind of the main melody of the song. Now, these melodies can be beautiful, and they often are played at the beginning and then at the end of the song. And then about 95% of the middle of the song is just jamming between the instruments. Now that you understand this, you can listen to a jazz song and think, what is the melody on this? What is the head? Here are some examples of songs with a beautiful melody at the beginning. Once that melody is gone, you start to listen to the instruments jamming. And if you get lost in this, just listen for the bass line. That bass line is kind of like your roadmap or GPS. And what you can do is just nod along, and you're automatically a pro at enjoying jazz. So that is just a very rudimentary and basic introduction to how to enjoy jazz. But I think a lot of it is also from your mental space. You have to understand that jazz is different than pretty much every genre of music. It's like a conversation between the instruments. The piano starts out, maybe he says something, then the saxophone might respond, and then the drums throw in a little argument. Once you understand this, it sounds a lot less chaotic, and it's more just like a conversation between instruments, and the people playing the instruments are expressing themselves through the instruments. So go pick out a jazz record, throw it on, nod your head, and you're automatically a pro. Hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to be making a lot of music content in all different genres, so I'd love for you to subscribe.